Are Russia and Britain already at war? Well, Russian agents are operating on British soil. Royal Navy ships are being shadowed and shot at in home waters. Fighter jets are testing our airspace on a near weekly basis, with some serious near misses. Cyber attacks are hitting British infrastructure, and now Britain is manufacturing and testing the drones that Ukraine is using to strike deep inside Russia. Here are 6 reasons why this might already be a more real war than the Cold War ever was. Firstly, Russian operations. In March 2024, a warehouse burned down in Leighton, East London. At first, it looked like an ordinary arson case, but it wasn't. The warehouse belonged to a Ukrainian couple, and it held equipment supporting the front line, including parts for Starlink terminals. 2 men later admitted the fire was carried out on behalf of Russia. One of them, a Brit from Leicestershire, had been recruited essentially as a gig economy saboteur. He wasn't a trained spy, he was just a paid per hour criminal. But this wasn't a one-off, British counter-terrorism police say. They've seen a rising number of these proxies, ordinary people recruited over encrypted apps, paid to gather intelligence or cause damage. In 2025, 3 people were arrested in Essex on suspicion of assisting a foreign intelligence service. They were prosecuted under the National Security Act, which is legislation drawn up in 2023 just to keep up with this kind of attack. Of course, we all remember the huge headlines in 2018 when 2 people died in a Russian poisoning attack in Salisbury. And these are just the big public operations. There have been plenty more that you haven't seen reported on, and MI6's own chief has gone on record calling it staggeringly reckless sabotage campaign. Naval standoffs. So there's more than just secret operations. Blatant, full-view naval standoffs have also caused conflict. In June of this year, a British couple was sailing a yacht called Bright Future through the channel in the fog off the Isle of Wight. Now, a Russian frigate, the Admiral Grigorov, I can't pronounce that, was close by and was concerned at the closeness of the yacht. It sounded its horn once and twice again, and then it opened fire. Thankfully, they were just warning shots, not aimed at the yacht. But this was still live rounds, fired near a British civilian vessel in international waters just off the British coast. And a month later, the same pattern happened on a bigger scale. A Russian frigate ran live fire gunnery drills 40 miles off Plymouth, while a Royal Navy patrol ship watched from 5 nautical miles away, close enough to count the rounds. 20 shells from the main gun and more from the second battery. This is now routine. Royal Navy ships and helicopters have maintained near continuous watch on Russian frigates moving through UK waters for months at a time, every single day, some months without a single gap. In June, Royal Marine Commandos from 42 Commando even boarded a sanctioned Shadow Fleet oil tanker in the Channel, fast roping down from a Chinook helicopter in the dark, backed by 2 Royal Navy warships and a full air group. It was the first operation of its kind, Britain physically seizing a vessel tied to Russia. And in April this year, Defence Secretary John Healey revealed that Britain and Norway had spent a month tracking 3 Russian submarines operating over UK undersea cables and pipelines in the North Atlantic. Healey said directly, we see your activity over our underwater infrastructure, aimed directly at Putin. But while all this is happening on the water, even more dangers have appeared from the skies above. Aerial incursions. I have friends based on quick reaction air bases across the UK, and it's clear to me that RAF jets are being scrambled to intercept Russian aircraft testing UK and NATO airspace on a near weekly basis. Most of these never make headlines, because most of the time the aircraft eventually turn away, a jet appears near British airspace without a filed flight plan or a transponder's been switched off, a typhoon goes up to identify it, and it flies away. But it's not always so straightforward, and it's not always over Britain. In May this year, a Russian jet closed to within 6 meters of a RAF rivet joint surveillance aircraft over the Black Sea, flying so close it triggered the aircraft's onboard emergency systems. And that wasn't the worst of it. In 2022, an Su-35 actually released a missile at a rivet joint, flying in international airspace. The missile missed, and Russia called it a technical malfunction at first, but later evidence shows it was actually ambiguous language from the ground control that led to the pilot intentionally firing the missile. Britain suspended patrols but then resumed them with fighter escorts. If you take these incidents in the Baltic, the North Sea, the Channel, you get this low-grade constant contest that never quite crosses into open conflict but never stops either. In fact, to me, it's a miracle that no one has accidentally been killed by either side so far, flipping this into a full-scale war. Which brings us to the part of this that doesn't need a jet or a warship at all. Cyber attacks.
Woo. Better luck next time. Slugheads. Bang! Gun! I am invincible!
Britain has publicly and repeatedly accused Russian state-linked hackers of targeting UK infrastructure, energy networks, government systems, private companies, even sporting events. UK officials confirmed Russian hackers were behind the 2018 Winter Olympics hack, deliberately disguised to look like the work of China or North Korea. GCHQ and 10 allied nations exposed a Russian GRU unit campaign running since 2022, hijacking home and office routers like yours and mine to intercept passwords and personal data, targeting organisations across defence, port, air traffic control, all kinds of important business. So, agents on the ground, warships at sea, jets in the air, attacks on cyberspace. It seems for the most part Britain has been playing defence, but that's changing, and that poses a biggest risk to a full-scale conflict than anything else. Britain runs its own offensive cyber unit called the National Cyber Force. GCHQ's director confirmed it delivers high-impact cyber operations every day. Not defence, active operations. While officials haven't confirmed the targets, insiders claim that Russia is the main target. But this isn't the only offensive that Britain is fighting. British weapons. For the first time, Ukraine has used British-built weapons to strike deep inside Russian territory, and Putin is not happy about it. The Russian embassy in the UK accused Britain of deliberately opting for an escalation of the Ukraine crisis, saying the deeper its involvement in the conflict, the higher the price it will pay. All this becomes of Ukraine's use of the Nyan, a jet-powered attack drone made by BAE Systems. It recently hit oil refineries in Volgograd and Yaroslav, and warehouses owned by Wildberries, Russia's equivalent of Amazon, hundreds of miles inside Russia, not in Ukraine. Now, these drones are developed and tested on Royal Navy platforms. British designed, British built, British tested. But there's a second weapon involved too, longer ranged, catapult launched, over 600 miles of reach. The British government won't confirm the manufacturer's name for security reasons. They quite rightly assume that the company building the flying bombs hitting Russian soil might be in a tad bit of danger. The new weapon is cheap, replaceable, and can be launched in swarms. The Russian embassy in London didn't call this arms support, they called Britain an accomplice and co-perpetrator in what they termed Kiev's terrorist machinery, and warned of dire consequences, without actually saying what those consequences would be. All this is on top of the existing Storm Shadow missiles, which have been provided now for years to Ukraine. For 3 years now, Britain's public position has rested on a distinction. Arming Ukraine is not the same as fighting Russia. Britain builds and tests the weapon, Ukraine pulls the trigger. That line is held legally and diplomatically so far, but it's being tested to its limit. So what comes next? Is Britain legally at war with Russia? Technically, no. There's no declaration, no Article 5 invocation, no formal state of hostilities. But these days, a legal declaration doesn't have the same distinction it did 30 or more years ago. Functionally, look at what's actually happened. Intelligence operatives are active on British streets. Warships are exchanging warning fire in home waters. Weekly airspace violations. Close calls, near misses, confirmed year-long sabotage cyber campaign by both sides. And now British-built weapons hitting Russian targets miles from the front line. Compare that to the actual Cold War. For most of it, the US, UK, USSR, they never traded fire directly. This is different. Shots have been fired near British vessels. Weapons are landing on Russian soil. The only thing missing is the word war itself, and that's a political choice, not a factual one. All it can take now is a single trigger-happy pilot, an off-target missile from a warship, a step too far in cyber attacks, or simply mounting pressure on Putin to look strong. And that line between Cold War and real war disappears. What do you think? Is Britain and Russia really at war? What would it take to make the distinction, to call it a war, more than what it already is? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.